How do you get to 5,000 sales in 3 years on Etsy? Today we're speaking with Monica Little. She is an Etsy expert that I have had the pleasure of meeting and collaborating with this past year. And we talk about why Etsy is the best place for small business owners to sell their products. And we talk about how you can be successful on Etsy with higher priced products when other shops are undercutting you on pricing. We get into all of those Etsy topics and more, so get out your pen and paper and get ready to learn. But before we jump into that conversation, if you would be interested in coming on my podcast as another Etsy seller, I would love to have a conversation with you about Etsy. I'm looking for shops that are doing a minimum of $10,000 a month right now. So comment below if you know of a shop or if you are a shop that's doing over $10,000 a month, and I would love to have a conversation with you about your business on the podcast. I am so excited to be here with Etsy expert Monica Little. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
For anyone who maybe doesn't know you, can you share a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, what you do?
So my story really begins about 3 to 4 years ago, I'll say. When I was working a corporate job, I knew that I wanted to do something else with my life. Living for the weekends and having the Sunday scaries every single Sunday wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, for the next 30, 40, however many years. And I had a really big passion for health and wellness during that point in my life because my mom had previously battled and beat 2 different types of cancers that were totally unrelated. I was really focusing on health and wellness because I'm like, all right, I got to make sure I'm doing what I can to put my health forward. Part of that, it was exercising, meditating, journaling, being outside, taking care of myself through food. And another part of that was actually the products that we use in our day-to-day life. So I started to experiment with different skincare products. I started to make my own skincare. I was sharing about it on Instagram and people would message me saying, hey, can I buy that serum from you? And I was like, okay, oh my gosh, this may actually turn into something. This might have something behind it. And I ended up opening a small business called Plant-Based Beauty where I made and sold organic handmade skincare filled with superfoods. I actually ended up leaving my corporate job and decided to go all in on my small business. So I was doing markets every single weekend and that's all I knew on how to grow my business. And I was so burnt out and exhausted. And it came to a point where I'm like, there's gotta be an easier way. I'm not at my corporate job, but now I'm prepping all week long to sell at a market every single weekend. So there was a moment where I was like, I really need to learn how to sell my products online. And one of the first places where I took that dedication and commitment to change where my small business was going was Etsy. So I spent a ton of time really learning how to optimize Etsy. What do Etsy customers and Etsy shoppers want to see? What information do they need? How do you stand out? How do you get found when there's so many competitors? I really just spent a good chunk of time diving into that and ended up growing my Etsy shop to over 5,000 sales in a matter of about a year and a half probably. Now during that time, I also ended up growing my business in other ways, from my website, from getting into over 160 stores around the US and around the world, growing my Instagram to over 16,000 followers. When I was doing that, I realized how much I love the business side of things. So I ran my skincare small business for about 3 years, and then I started to coach other small business owners because I truly found that I have a passion for teaching and for business building and for sharing that knowledge so they can actually build a business that gives them freedom that they desire.
First of all, your skin is glowing. So are you using your product still?
So I no longer have my skincare small business. There was a time when I was doing both coaching and my skincare business, and I just realized it was so much. So I no longer have my skincare small business, but I do make some of my products still for myself.
Now, a lot of people, they're so scared to go from corporate to Etsy or to really just doing anything entrepreneurial because, it's out of their element. They feel like lack of security. Was your corporate experience product-based business? Were you doing that in corporate or was it any different?
So some of the skills that I learned in my corporate career, I was working in corporate offices for about 8 years, like negotiating and procurement and project management and how to lead a team. And some things more tactical, like I did work in email marketing and customer loyalty. So that was more transferable specifically to Etsy.
Yeah, either way, you learn a lot. For you, when you thought about, going to Etsy, let's say, versus starting on Shopify, I hear this all the time. They're like, well, why would I want to give Etsy my customers? I don't own my customers. Like, I'll just start a website. Why do you say that Etsy's really a great place for people to sell their products?
If you're starting off like how I was, I put my products up on Etsy because it was cheaper, because it was simpler, because it was quicker. If you're going all in with Shopify, it's going to cost you more money. It's going to take more time. You're primarily driving your audience to Shopify. And the benefit I saw with Etsy is they have this pool of people who are searching for products that are similar to what I make. So if I can just learn how to tap into that, how to get found, how to get the shopper to turn into a buyer, I don't need to spend all this time on Instagram and marketing and getting people to my website, because that can take a lot of time and energy. Let me have Etsy for the Etsy shoppers, for the 80 million people that are shopping on there on an annual basis. And also, once that was established and running, let me build my website, because that is important. It is necessary. And once I had the time and some money coming in, I could spend the time building it, creating it, making it a great user experience. And then I had the best of both worlds. New audience coming on Etsy, my Instagram and my direct people going to my website, and keeping both simultaneously so you're not losing out on people who are shopping for products.
I think a lot of people think, oh, the fees on Etsy, and they increase their fees by so much. I'm just going to start my website. 6 months later, they have no customers on their website. And if you just, start on Etsy, it will always funnel you new people. How long, did it take you to get traction? Let's say in your first year, was it disappointing, or were you happily surprised?
So I remember when I first put my products up on there, I think I was a little disappointed that it wasn't instant. I went through that experience myself, and then I just became dedicated and committed to it. And I want to say it took a good 3 to 4 months of trial and error and different photos, different description, getting more reviews, building up this Etsy machine. And then the sales started to come in. There was some point I was getting 100, 150, 200 orders, probably coming in every week, if not every 2 weeks, especially around holiday season. All of that energy was so worth it to get this running on autopilot, to get these customers finding me and purchasing from me. It's an algorithm. It takes time, it takes energy, but it's so worth it to have those cha-chings coming in when it's oh, I'm on vacation and orders are coming in, or oh, I didn't even post on social media and an order's coming in.
Yes, totally. And for people who maybe they have gone on Etsy and they've done all the research, they've watched, the YouTube videos, the podcasts, and they feel like they're doing all the right things, but they're still not seeing results. And maybe it's a product issue. What do you do in those situations? What kind of recommendations do you make to people?
What I tell people is have some sort of proof of concept that people want your products. So that's why I am grateful for the pop-ups in the markets that I did do, because I was getting sales and I was getting proof okay, people want this. And this, I think, is where there's a big difference between someone who wants to run a business versus someone who wants to make a quick buck. Is the intention, let me get rich quick and make money really, really fast? Or is the intention, I want to help people. I want to create a product that people love. I want to support some sort of mission or purpose, because those answers to those questions are going to lead to 2 different types of actions and 2 different types of results too.
Yeah. And for people who maybe they aren't creative, maybe they feel I want to make money online and do e-commerce, but I'm not crafty. What do you think the easiest way for them to make money on Etsy today is?
So primarily I do work with people who are in the handmade space, who maybe are crafty. A lot of the people that I work with are probably the inverse of they love to make candles, or they love to make art, or they love to make skincare. And it's how do I bring this passion to the world? The inverse, if someone says they aren't crafty, find something that you're passionate about and let something naturally come to you. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What do you want to bring to the world? So I really believe everyone has that purpose and passion and mission within them. The ask is go have fun and find what you love to do and see what comes up.
I love that, because you're not saying go Google the top 5 things to sell on Etsy and pick one of those and make it work. You're giving people maybe a bigger meaning behind it. Now, you sold when you were on Etsy higher end products, right? So it wasn't the cheapest. You weren't competing on price, trying to undercut everyone. Tell us a little bit about, people who don't want to be playing that price game, people who want to sell higher end products.
So I would say my products were a little bit more mid-range. However, there were definitely people who were selling similar products for a lot less. I sold serums and face masks and dry shampoo, things like that, which The ingredients are on the label, and I used very simple ingredients. They were high quality, however, very simple. This serum is meant to hydrate your skin, and my serum is meant to hydrate your skin, right? The goal is, how do you become more sophisticated? How do you become better? How do you stand out? That your price point isn't even something that people blink at. And that comes down to a couple things. Your imagery. Your photos have to be so spot on that they speak to that person who's not there bargain hunting. They're looking at the images. They're looking at the packaging. They're looking at the branding. They're looking at the reviews. And this is beautiful because it's going to help you on your website, on your Instagram, when you're reaching out to stores, in every single component. And it can really all start with, how do I create a kick-ass Etsy listing that just shatters and puts myself in a totally different world compared to everyone else out there?
Photos, people do struggle with that. Let's say they don't have a fancy camera. They just learned how to use their iPhone. Maybe they're a little unsteady with the photos. What kind of advice do you give them?
First advice, and this is probably not what people are going to want to hear, the professional photos, investing in it is so worth it. I remember my first time when I invested in professional photos for my business, I was so scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is $400 that I'm investing right now. However, the beautiful thing is, how much time and energy are you saving from not messing with the lighting, from not taking the photos, from not having to edit them? The amount of time that you save from not doing that, if you apply an hourly rate to that, is going to be so worth paying the $400. Now, to hold you over in the meantime, what I would say the most important things are, do some really good competitive research on Etsy to see, how are other people styling their photos? People on the first page, is it a white backdrop or is it styled? Is it someone wearing it and using it? For me, when I first did my photos, my very first ones on my own, it was just iPhone and good lighting. That's it. Lighting can be pretty hard depending on where you live, if there's not like direct sunlight and things like that. So it sounds simple, but it can be a little bit more complex, which is why I always recommend invest in that professional photography. It's going to do wonders for you to stand out.
Yeah. And even, getting the creative ideas from a photographer for the first couple times, and that'll give you ideas if you want to play with photography on your own later on. Like, okay, you'll get prop ideas, because when you take a picture of your dinner or whatever for Instagram, you're not like putting a little like flower in the corner or a little greenery. You learn a lot too from watching what a photographer even thinks of. And for people who are, selling higher priced products on Etsy, what are some things that you do in the shop outside of photos that really create that kind of trust?
I love to have some sort of review in either the third or fourth photo on Etsy. Now, if someone doesn't have Etsy reviews where they can take a screenshot and add that to their photos, reach out to some of your customers via Instagram or email or text message, friends, family, whoever you do have that you can say, hey, can you share some feedback on this candle or this skincare or this jewelry? Another really easy way to give trust is to have all the details needed in the description. If you're looking at a hotel or an Airbnb and there's like 2 sentences and you need to know something about parking or about the pool or about if there's a restaurant or whatever, if that's not listed there, you don't have the trust to actually purchase. So description is all about, what are those questions that people need to know? Because an Etsy customer is not gonna find you on Instagram and send you a DM to get clarification. They're gonna hit the back button and go to the other 60 options on that search results page to find what they want. So no matter what way this person shops, they get what they need to trust you, to trust your business, to add to cart and to purchase.
Totally. Yeah, that's great advice. I think a lot of people, when they're starting at nothing, they just sometimes try to get up as many listings as possible, and they hear like, oh, I need 100 listings in order to get a sale, and they completely forget about the details.
Yeah, details matter so much. And with my Etsy shop, I had like 12 listings. It's not really like quantity. That can help to get some eyeballs, but I'm a big fan of quality over quantity, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. When you first kind of meet Etsy sellers who are stuck and they're on the fence about getting help, actually hiring someone to help them or taking a course, they think, maybe I can do it on my own. What do you tell them, or what do you think? What's your philosophy here?
I will say, if you want to grow faster, you have to do it alongside someone. People may be able to do it on their own, for sure. Like I did it on my own. However, the trial and error and energy and time and stress If you want to sign up for that, like power to you, but it's not really that fun, right? So what you can do is collapse time, get results sooner, and which will cover the cost of that investment. And then you're already at this threshold of building more sales coming in to your business sooner and growing your business sooner. With my business, I have so many people and coaches and mentors that I turn to because I don't ever want to do this alone. Business gets to be so much simpler and gets to be more fun when you have support around you to make that happen. 6 months later, you're going to be like, oh, why did I even question myself on that? That was so worth it to get to where I am now.
Yeah, totally. And I think entrepreneurship, people think that means building a business by yourself. It doesn't mean by yourself. You can totally bring in people and resources and experts to consult you or to give you, the leg up. Yeah, that's amazing. And if people want to connect with you, where is a good place for them to find you, to follow you?
I primarily hang out on Instagram. My Instagram is Monica Little Coaching. And then I have a podcast called the Product Biz Podcast where I share more tips and mindsets and everything that's encompassing growing a business. So that's primarily where I hang out too.
Awesome. And I know our students and our followers love podcasts. So we will send them your way to consume all of your content.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. And we'll have to do this again.
Definitely.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Monica Little, and I hope you learned a lot. And if you'd like to connect with Monica, we will link all of her information below. She has great tips out there for handmade sellers, and I think you could learn a lot from her. And if you like videos like this where we do interviews with other experts and creators, definitely subscribe to the channel, and we will do more of these in the future.
I've gone from about $1,500 to $2,000 in revenue a month to currently, before the month's finished, $4,200 in revenue. I only joined multi-six-figure Etsy Blueprint about 4 weeks ago now,